front door.
Luca Belgiorno Nettis, what does the Magna Carta mean to you?
Well, I think at its heart, it refers to judgments by one's peers, the question of habeas corpus, and I'm intrigued as the only non-lawyer here, so if you like, the amateur, the bush lawyer. I've always been intrigued by how, even in this place, which is our legislature, so the legislature really is made by the people, by one's peers. I'm interested in seeing how, I see this as a catalyst, as an opportune catalyst to see how we can innovate our democracy, how we can look to improve our government. And I think here we have Magna Carta that suggests there are our peers, everyday people who are the reasonable people, the reasonable person that should be looked to guide us in respect of how we do our democracy in the future. So I see an inclusive conversation, a national dialogue, this opportune catalyst now with Magna Carta to have a national dialogue as to how we can improve our government so that it can be more collaborative, more inclusive, and have better representation.
Well, more on that later. Luca Belgiorno Nettis want to get involved. Sorry, and you can come back in. Go ahead, Luca.
Thank you. Yeah. I think what this particular issue about refugees has highlighted in this community is that we've lost a certain amount of trust in our public decision-making, even though, of course, it's a very fraught issue and it's not said that there might still be differences in terms of policy. I cannot help but think that we could not achieve a more inclusive and a more reasonable approach to this particular fraught problem. And I think we could have achieved that by having a group of everyday Australians, not adversarial contested election processes, but everyday Australians in a sort of citizen jury selected at random to reflect the community at large, discussing not just this issue, but all issues, because that's where I see our parliament potentially moving, to have an inclusive group of everyday people that can bring their lived experience to the table.
Bronwyn Bishop, just a quick follow-up on that. I mean, I suppose that's what the government considers focus groups to be.
No. Look, Luca and I have known each other
40 years?
40 years?
50 years.
Mainly through the arts, where we agree on many things. But we have had this discussion from time to time, and basically we have an adversarial system because we believe in different things. For me, I belong to the political party I joined because I believe in the principles of free enterprise and the philosophy of individualism. If I was someone who believed in collectivism, I would have joined the other side of politics. Now that framework, let me finish, Luca. That framework means that you form policies in accordance with those principles. Free enterprise tells me that the business of government is to do those things that the private sector cannot or will not do, and to provide for those who cannot provide for themselves. And within those confines, we develop policies which are different from the Labor Party, and therefore we will have.
We're fast running out of time, so we better hear what Luca has to say about that.
I think the community at large doesn't necessarily relate to those fossilised relics of ideological positions. Sorry,
well,
and that's not, with all due respect, that's not referring to anyone at this table. I think, Bronwyn, please, my opportunity. Thank you.
Maybe.
I think we could do a whole lot better with the way we have our political dialogue. The way we should be able to build trust in our public decision making is to have people like you and in the audience across Australia represented at the table, at the top table. The citizen juries that we do at newDemocracy prove that everyday people selected at random, when they come together, they make sensible decisions. I don't understand why we can't look to have something like that as a citizen senate, where people can come, 150 randomly selected citizens, as a trialled upper house, where people come rotated every 2 or 3 years. It's a paid service, national services. I bet you most people, if they were given that opportunity in this great hall and across Australia would jump at that opportunity to see how we could make Australia great.
It's an ambitious plan. We'll come back to that again on another time. We have time for just one last question. You're in a majority in Parliament, but do you fear the tyranny of the majority in a more general sense?
Look, I love this country. I trust the Australian people. I don't like it when people say they won't understand or it's too complicated for them. That's disparaging. They know very well. They're smart, they understand, and they care for their country as well. And what I want to see is a continuation of the democracy that we have first inherited and then made very much our own. Osminster, I call it. Westminster it started, Washminster it may have had a touch with, but Osminster it is now. If you heed the words of Winston Churchill, that democracy is the most chaotic, and I'm paraphrasing, chaotic, messy system of government you could possibly have.
It's the worst system of government apart from all those that have been tried before.
You're quoting it better than I am.
Words, and I say, let's try something new.
Well, I'll say to you, I think it's the best thing we've got going at this stage. And quite frankly, Luca, I don't want to be told by a selected group what I must think.
And I think that is, I'm sorry, we could allow this to go on for a long time. I'm so sorry, we're 6 minutes over time, I've just been told. That's all we have time for tonight. Please thank our panel, Brett Walker, Bronwyn Bishop, Luca Belgiorno Nettis, Gillian Triggs, Noel Pearson.